maybe waiting.
It says live on me on the corner here.
Sick. Mine's just lagging on this end. Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. Thank you so much for being here. So, as we alluded to last week, we had the end of our fundraiser, our OCIC fundraiser, and thank you everyone who bought shirts. And next year we want to do it even bigger, but we raised over $400 for OCIC. It was my first time doing a fundraiser. There's kind of a lot of things I learned throughout the process. And next year I want to bring it to a whole nother level. And hopefully, I want to eventually grow it to where we can make, while the podcast grows, while everything grows, I can make over $1,000 and we can fundraise every year over $1,000 for the OCIC or whatever, organization we choose to do going forward. So thank you everyone who participated in that. And we'll probably do it the same exact time next year. Maybe I'll just plan it a little bit better and we'll raise money. And so thank you guys so much for doing that. Other than that, Theportcitypythons.com. I don't really have anything available. I have a Sumatran short-tailed python available, a male, if anyone's interested. Other than that, don't really have anything going on. We have a lot of eggs. Scott, I think, is going to buy the Sumatran short-tailed python. So Scott was shaking his head when I was saying that. I'm not sure if that's because
she gave me a weird look. I love short tails, but I don't have the space for any right now.
Well, if you need one, you got the Scott Borden price, of course.
Oh,
shipped right to your door.
That's how a lot of my friends have sold me animals. Is like, oh, I'll give you a special price. Yeah, great.
At a certain point, you got to just pawn it off to a friend if it's not working out. So,
sure.
And I've been the recipient to many good gifts, as well as you probably have.
Yeah, sadly. Well, not sadly.
No, like it's
some of my best animals in the room are like that.
Yeah, it's things that you kind of stumble into just because you have a friend getting out of something or transitioning from something into another thing. And all of us hurt people, I guess, go through species or categories of animals even. Like, one day we're into turtles, then we're into snakes, then we're into different species of snakes. So
been down that road.
So we have had Scott on before. And he kind of gave us a little bit of intro on how he got into everything. We went through all that. So you guys want to check that out. He was a long time ago, probably over a year ago. But we do have his wife, Valerie, with us. So Valerie, welcome to the podcast for the first time. And can you give us a little overview of how you first got involved with reptiles?
Yeah, sure. So I probably started about 5 years ago now. I've always loved animals, but I was never allowed to have any reptiles in my house. My mom would not allow it. So when I met Scott, he obviously had reptiles, and I kind of grew pretty fond of them. It did start with a snake that I called dibs on from an egg. It hatched out. I still have it to this day. It's a ball python, nothing crazy. And then I kind of transitioned into geckos, specifically gargoyle geckos. I keep many different species now, everything from sarasinorum to lychees to chihuahuas, the electric blue day geckos, the neon day geckos, also known as klemmeri. And I don't know. I plan on getting other stuff eventually, but that's kind of where I am right now.
Forgive my ignorance, but I do not know what that first word was, the one with the S.
Can you say that again? Sarasinorum.
So what is the sarasinorum?
So a sarasinorum is basically the cousin to the crested gecko. They're from New Caledonia, but they're like 10 times quicker than a crested gecko.
So does it have a similar appearance and keeping? Is the keeping similar to a crested gecko?
The keeping is exactly the same. They look kind of like a cross between a crested and a gargoyle. Their head's a little more streamlined. It's not as square. They don't have the eyelashes or the prongs on them, and they're much larger.
So do you feed those the kind of fruit mix, or is that more insect oriented?
They'll pretty much eat anything, but a mix between dubia roaches, crickets, Pangea, Rapashi. They'll eat all of it.
And do you guys have a pair? Have you bred those?
I haven't bred them yet. I actually have 3 juveniles and a pair, adult pair.
Now, for all of your geckos, do you house them in breeding groups or do you house them separately?
I house everything separate just because the risk that's involved with housing geckos together. Gargoyles do have very sharp teeth actually as adults, and they can break the skin and ruin each other's eyeballs. And they're kind of, I would say, aggressive when they breed to a degree. They are pretty rough, so it's not worth the risk to me.
Just the klemmeri are together. That's the only thing here together.
And what's kind of the thoughts? Is that just a species that does particularly well together?
Yeah, they do pretty well for us. So we keep them in a family unit. We have an adult pair, and we let them breed, and we pretty much let them raise the babies for, what do you think, 6 months maybe? Or maybe a little less than that. When they get to a certain size, then we move them over to a separate enclosure, just a smaller vivarium, and I usually will sell them out of that.
And do you guys have to, as far as the breeding goes, is that kind of a seasonal thing, or do they breed all year round? How many clutches can they have?
Which ones?
Damn, I guess we should go in order.
They're all pretty much seasonal, but I mean, yeah, they're all pretty much seasonal. And they breed most of the year. I mean, in our room, they will breed, I don't know, how many months out of the year you think, babe?
6 to 8, usually. I do cool my gargoyles down over the winter so that they can have the chance to re-up their calcium deposits. It makes for better eggs during the breeding season.
So no matter what, are you just trying to get females a certain amount of time off just to make sure?
Yeah, I mean, at least for my gargoyles and New Caledonia geckos, I would try to give them at least 6 months off just to get their weight up and everything else.
So someone's getting into these rare geckos, I mean, how did you figure out like what you liked or what first attracted you to them?
I mean,
my friends send me pictures and then I show her and she goes, I want that and I want that and I want that. And then we buy all of them. That's why there's more geckos in the room than snakes.
That's fair.
Or well, we have friends that give us geckos and be like, here, Val takes great care of her geckos. Here, have these. That's happened too.
And how do you, because obviously we can see, if people can see in the YouTube video, there's like these awesome naturalistic looking vivariums. So how do you set them up? And what are general like housing requirements?
So behind us right here, up these two are the two main day gecko vivariums. One's the klemmeri neon day geckos, and the other is the electric blue. We only have a male electric blue. If anyone out there has a female, hit your boy up. I need one because we were supposed to get a proven pair, and ended up being both males. One was just dominant over the other one, ended up almost trying to kill the other one. So we had to sell the less dominant male, and then poof, the magic happened, and there's no more females anywhere. I missed one the other night by like 30 seconds. She's like, it's already pretty much spoken for. I'm like, you just posted it. It's ridiculous. But
so can you explain a little bit of like, because just if anyone saw this animal, they would be like, holy shit, let's be honest, because it's just eye-catching. Can you give us a little overview of like how they look and the size and everything like that?
They're small. They're not, you talking about the electric blues specifically? Yeah, they're not very big. Maybe, what do you think? 3 inches tops, maybe? Yeah, 3 inches tops. They're not a big gecko. They're like a lot of the smaller day geckos, and they're like the most ridiculous. Well, the males are the most ridiculous blue, with like black throat. The color is just, it's insane. It's like the just perfect blue you can imagine. And then females are usually like they kind of range from like a much duller blue to more of a green tinted color. But,
and do babies come out a different color, or do they come out that electric blue if they're a male?
No, they come out looking the same, which is the pain in the ass part, because if I want a female, it needs to be a female, it needs to be an adult. I can't buy a baby and grow it up right now, because I mean, I could buy a whole bunch of babies and grow them up. Those are available, but I'm looking for, an adult female that's proven or at least sexable, and there is none available out there.
And is this something, because when I'm thinking of a small animal, I would think that like maybe it would take less time to grow them up, but clearly you're not looking to do that. How long would it take to grow up a female?
It doesn't take that long. It's just, it's just cost effective and where space effective for us to have space to grow them up. But the day geckos, they grow pretty quick. I mean, think about it in nature, they kind of need to grow up quick and get their wits about them kind of quick. So they will grow relatively fast. I mean, not super, super fast, but like I said, in 6 months, like with the neons, they're certainly not full grown, but they're maybe half their full grown size, maybe a little more, give or take their genetics and how much they're eating and all that. But
so generally within a year, you're going to have a breedable animal.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
And obviously they only get like 3 inches big. So how small are they when they start?
Oh,
they're like tiny. The size of like my pinky nail. I mean, they're very tiny.
Cutest thing you ever saw in your life.
How do you not lose it?
Oh, they get out. I don't know if there's a single person. Well, the electric blue, actually, we did get one electric blue get out. Electric blues suck because they're fucking fast. The klemmeri are not bad. They're just, as long as you understand how to handle them, they're not going to sprint away from you or like suicide jump. They are moving, but they're going to just stick to jumping on stuff. They're not going to jump from you to the floor. But, dude, the klemmeri, which we breed all year, or well, most of the year regularly, every once in a while, baby will get out or something will get out. When I took our air conditioner out in the fall, I took the air conditioner out and there was one that was actually on the outside underneath the air conditioner. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I couldn't believe it. And it was chilly. I mean, it was cold at night. I still don't know, but so I grabbed him or her and got it inside, and that one did good. It grew up and sold it on a while later. It actually came around good, but every once in a while they do get out.
That is crazy. So what are you, I've seen people do like tackle boxes. Have you ever seen that with little gecko eggs and whatnot?
They're right behind you. You can't see it, but they're right behind you.
So you guys do that something similar, like you have compartmentalized so you can put I'm guessing they lay in pairs.
Yeah, most of the time they lay in pairs.
That's the bigger geckos. The neons, we just they just lay eggs in the cage, right in the bamboo.
And do you monitor that at all, or you just kind of let it happen?
The day geckos? No monitor. Yeah. They just lay eggs, and then one day you walk in, there's 2 very tiny little babies, 2 more babies in there. You're like, oh, new babies.
Do you have any idea how long it takes them to incubate as far as the eggs go?
What do you think?
I'd say no more than 90 days.
Yeah, probably no more than 90. It's hard because what happens is she just lays regularly in there, maybe once a month. So there's a slowdown during the winter for like 3 months, but for 9 months of the year, it's just pretty much constant. There's new eggs, new babies, new eggs, new babies, new eggs, new babies. We let the babies grow up. We move the bigger ones over and more hatch. So we don't really keep track of it. But yeah, I'd say no more than 90 days. Where she lays the eggs has a lot to do with that, though, with the temperature. But she lays them up. I don't know if you can really see in the video, probably not, but the top bamboo piece is pretty close under the lights. So it's probably pretty optimal temperature-wise in there, too. So it's pretty steady. And pretty regular with probably the amount of days, I would guess. But we don't really track it. They're just a pile of eggs in the bamboo that we can see, and 2 at a time hatch. So.
Well, that sounds easy. I mean, no one can complain about that.
Nah, they've been pretty easy to keep.
And heat-wise, it looks like you have lighting on them. What are you doing for heat and lighting?
So I set them up with 3 different types of lighting. I don't know if you've ever heard of Frank Payne. He did electric blues big time, and he does a lot of other cool shit. But he turned me on with his article about keeping electric blues to these puck lights. And so I use those for heat with the day geckos now. because you can get them at Home Depot, or I get them offline, and you just hook them up to like the old slide dimmer with a lamp, like a lamp dimmer, and you just adjust it with a temp gun to where you want it for the basking area. So I set up a basking area with that, and then I have LED lights and also UV strip lights, high output, a lot of light on those.
And now UV, not a question, it's required, or is that kind of a debated?
Absolutely. The day geckos, at least these two species, I'd say absolutely. They do very well with it, and you think about it, they're probably like high sunshine, bamboo loving species, so they're out in the sun all day. It just makes sense.
And then what's the cycle typically like as far as the light cycle?
Oh, I don't know. I just 12 on, 12 off.
Yeah.
I don't change the light cycles with them.
And now your temperature is literally just being adjusted by that light. I mean, that's your only heat source.
Yeah. Well, they also the LED light and the other one will give a pretty decent gradient, especially along that top bamboo. And then they have some bamboo in the back that they can bask at a pretty high temp. What do I set that up? I think mid 90s. I set the basking up, something like that. And then they're all, the upper area of the cage is very much in the 80s, upper 80s to mid 80s. So yeah, there's a really good temperature gradient, but as long as you keep the top of the cage especially warm with them, they do very well.
And how do you keep proper gradient in, like, I know a lot of people keep them in like 12 by 12s even. I mean, how do you keep proper gradient in something that small? I guess as a snake person, we're not used to working with those smaller dimensions for an adult animal, especially a group of animals.
Well, we keep our group in, what are these big? 18?
24, 36.
No, that's those.
I don't think so.
I think those are 24 tall. But they're definitely, because that's 12 by 12 by 18. So yeah, we keep the bigger vids are 18 by 18 by 24, I think. But you'd be surprised. I mean, as long as, especially with these, you're doing a gradient top down, but also away from the heat. Like, they have the basking area, but then the other lights away from the basking area create that nice warm temp, but not hot, but nice warm temp. And then if they really want to cool down, which they will go and eat bugs down below and stuff. But
oh yeah, speaking of which, let's go over a little bit of diet of the day geckos.
Pangea, and then fruit flies, right? What's those little flies? Fruit flies, and then really small, the tiniest of the tiny dubia nymphs. Usually the babies can they're usually a little too small for the dubia nymphs, so they usually got to grow a little bit before they can really take a nymph down. But or like pinhead crickets, basically little bugs, and then Pangea, a lot of Pangea.
So yeah, I didn't know that they would take that kind of a fruit mix. I thought they were insectivores.
Dude, they love it. Go on my Instagram and look at the videos of them. They just sit there and just lap it up. It's funny.
That's
Absolutely
awesome.
adorable.
And as an adult, I mean, what can they graduate to as far as size of cricket and whatnot?
Still small. I don't feel there's still a small gecko, so yeah, like really still dubia nymphs. And then crickets, small crickets the adults can do. And fruit flies, they love fruit flies when I can get them. But they'll chase moths around if there's like a moth or something. Any bug that's flying around the room at any time, they'll be chasing along the vivarium as it goes around it.
And do you have to calcium dust them, vitamins, anything like that?
Every once in a while we do, yeah. But they do pretty good with just the diet we give them. They have huge calcium sacs. The females got big calcium sacs, so they do pretty well just with the normal diet.
So as a snake person, what the hell is a calcium sac?
I'll let you take that one.
So the calcium sacs are just like buildups, basically behind where their eyes would be, kind of, I guess where our thyroid gland would be. It kind of helps them through when they're laying eggs, through breeding, and it kind of depletes over time. During the breeding season, and then in the off season, they kind of build them back up. They get pretty big, actually, for the size of their body. Sometimes it's kind of scary looking, but it's definitely a normal part of the gecko's life. So
I can't believe how many people on a Facebook group have asked if their gecko has a tumor or something.
No comment. Facebook groups can be tough.
Because I would, I think. I'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Well, that's normal. I mean, that's part of it. That's what a lot of people haven't understood on Facebook, is that they forgot what it was like when they first started and didn't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't ask those type of questions anymore, but there's still a lot of shit I don't know. Like, if I can go into a group tomorrow about, who knows, some sort of lizard I haven't kept before, and I'll have no idea. But a lot of people forget that. They think everybody is at their level. So.
Right. And that's something that I think at a lot of times we all have, like, we over talk. Like, I've been trying to, especially on like Instagram and stuff, because obviously you have a good following on Instagram as well. But it's like we need to get to the point where we're talking to like the lowest common denominator, but also appealing to people who are in the hobby. It's hard because I don't want to over speak, and have people not know.
We forget about the 90%.
Yeah, if not higher. Yeah.
I've said it higher. I mean, I've said up to 98% of the people that keep reptiles are not you or me or her. They're the pet keeper with one animal, two animal. They're not they don't consume their lives with the reptile content like we do.
And they don't have to. Let's be honest. I mean, you don't have to.
Yeah, and that's fine. But a lot of people forget that when they're online. You get those online muscles.
Yeah, so I need to get myself back on track. Foliage, it looks like you have some foliage back there. What kind of plants are you looking at? And what are you trying to achieve with it?
So when I build vivariums, which is usually for geckos, I use two main plants I like to use are the snake plant, and don't ask me the more official name. I forgot. I'm not a plant guy, so I don't know the
Latin names are nothing, man.
Yeah, but I use snake plants and then pothos. They're just super easy and they just grow and they're very hardy. There's a couple others I'll throw in there. I have bamboo in one for some reason, and then bromeliads. Oh, yeah, bromeliads are good too. But yeah, with any of the vivariums, it's just about cover and as natural as possible. Like the klemmeri are a big bamboo loving species, so the bamboo is really important. But you put enough plants in there so they have that much more territory, and every once in a while you'll see a little bit of a territorial dispute or an age dispute. Once they get a little older, you might see a couple males go at it. So the more plants and stuff in there, it just allows them to kind of separate if there's an issue like that, get away from one another and stuff like that. But it's just structure. It's just stuff like that.
Have you had them actually hurt each other in any way?
We've had one or two lose their tails, but I'm not 100% sure that was from them. It could have been, or it could have got pinched because their bamboo is split in some places, and sometimes it'll swell a little, almost shut, depending on the humidity and stuff. So it could have gotten pinched, or they could have, but it's very rare. Gargoyles is a different story. She's had some gargoyles not do any permanent damage, but breeding.
Yeah, I've had a couple that have like hairs in their cornea, or you can see it on where the color is, and you can see that it's from either a bite or from they do have claws actually, because that's how they hold on to like branches, and sometimes it'll just pull a little too much.
And that is just during normal breeding behavior, just the male bites the neck of the female, or?
Yeah, normal breeding behavior. Sometimes they're a little rough, almost to the point where you kind of think that they're kind of in distress. But it is a normal part of their breeding behavior, and the female will allow him to do it as long as she's receptive to him.
So that's one of those things. I mean, it's probably similar with snakes, at least on the colubrid front, especially king snakes. They bite the neck of their mate, and they are very forceful. And that typically doesn't happen unless the female's receptive. Is that the same in geckos as far as if she's not letting off those pheromones, if she's not ready to receive the male, then he's typically not as interested?
No, the males are pretty forward. They do call a lot. Like he'll let out a call, and depending on her mood, if she's not feeling it, it'll be a long, like almost like forceful no call. It's completely different. She kind of like shuts him down right away.
Some of it's individualistic too. Like certain animals, like we could put together and you wouldn't be worried about it at all. And there's other ones where, you know, that first night especially, we'll be in here watching more, and especially early in the season, we'll see how they go together and stuff.
So are they audibly calling all the time, or is that something that happens often?
Every once in a while I'll walk in and I'll hear a call, not knowing where it came from, but the males will call from their other tub. It might be halfway across the room, but they will call for the females.
And is that typically during a certain time, as far as during the breeding season? I mean, they know it's the breeding season and they're ready to go.
I think they do know that it's the breeding season, obviously because of pheromones and whatnot. But sometimes you do hear them when you don't expect to hear them.
And pairing, because I don't know, for some reason when I kept crested geckos, I was under the impression that you kept them in like groups. But how do you actually pair if you were to do it the right way? Which I'm sure you're doing it the right way and I did it the wrong way. How do you pair?
Some people do it that way. I know some of the bigger breeders do.
A lot of big breeders keep them in trios or bigger groups. The only thing for me is I like to know which female was paired, you know, where the eggs came from, I guess, like when they actually get to laying their eggs. Like I want to be able to give my customer, like, this is the female that it came from, this is the male that she was paired with, and you know, this is what the grandparents look like, or, you know, basically like lineage, I guess.
She's watched a Big Daddy breed jungles for a few years and she sees what's important.
How does it feel now, though, that Scott's not producing anything and you're producing all these geckos?
She works more than me.
I know. I mean, it's a little different. I mean, I get excited for babies no matter what, whether it's the baby carpets or you know, the littlest tiny day gecko, or if it's gargoyle geckos.
The only day that she likes my jungles is the days the eggs hatch. We're good friends with like Mike Hurd and all the other jungle guys. She's seen some of the best jungles in the world ever, and she'll be like, but when they hatch, it's full on excitement. Like she'll come in the room and get me if I'm still in bed or something. There's babies. There's nothing she loves more than babies hatching. Doesn't matter what it is.
And that's when they look the worst too.
True story. That's true story. She's seen some black and yellow stuff that is just straight fire, but when they come out of the egg and they're cute little babies, she's all about it. Doesn't matter what it is.
And I guess, and also you were saying about how you're taking this season off all this, but I mean, you still get to hatch out animals though. It's still under your roof. You get to hang out and hatch out little geckos and things that you're interested in anyhow.
There's always, with the geckos, it's crazy because with the geckos, stuff's pretty much always hatching here. It's all the time. Like right now it's kind of slow, but like in another 30 days or so, the day geckos are going to start hatching and the gargoyle eggs are going to start coming more and hatching more. And then there's a point like mid to late summer where it just gets ridiculous, where every day she's texting me and there's new babies hatching or there's new eggs, and then they come in waves, man.
How big is your group of geckos? Do you know? Can you give a ballpark number wise?
The geckos are behind you. She's counting.
I mean, I have like 14 adults and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
She's counting.
Oh, they're still going.
Juveniles to babies.
Oh, so that's not bad.
I mean, and then I have the golden geckos and the day geckos, which aren't even in those numbers.
Yeah, that was just like her gargoyle geckos. Then we have like 7 or 8 crested geckos around the room, golden geckos, a group of golden geckos, a group of sarasinorum geckos, one leaf tail that I'm selling soon. But Well, then
Why?
two
Or
monitors in the house, a tortoise in the house.
oh, so you guys have? I didn't know you had a tortoise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got her tortoise. Little
Is
red
that
truck.
what you say, or is that your excuse to get new animals?
No, she
Or
wanted a tortoise. I mean, I'm always good for whatever. I mean, now if more gargoyle geckos is more gargoyle geckos, that's lost its luster. But I'm always that's the problem with us. And if you're listening, having a significant other sounds great in the hobby until it actually happens to you, and then neither one of you can say no to each other, and it gets out of control. But yeah, no, I got her a tortoise. I don't even know, when did we get Flash? A couple years ago. A couple years ago now, 3 years ago now maybe. And she wanted a tortoise, so I bought her a tortoise for a holiday or something. I thought Christmas. I got it for Christmas. So,
but it must be fun at least having someone who is also into it, but also she was a bit newer to it, and you got to expose her to all these different things, and then she's figuring out all this stuff, all these new species of geckos and stuff that I'm sure she didn't know before, maybe even you didn't know before, and like, did that give you like a new spark as far as towards like reptile keeping?
I think I've said it before on your podcast and maybe a couple other podcasts. That some days I have more fun watching her these days, and I still have fun, but like I'm perfectly fine watching her grow and do all that with the stuff than where I'm at a different stage in my keeping and my hobby lifetime, if you will. I'm trying to do different things now, and she's coming up in it. She's put together this crazy, ridiculous group of gargoyle geckos. She's killing that. Like the baby she's producing, like she did it the right way, right? Like she got a couple for free, but like she's going out and spent some good money on some nice animals, and she's done it really right. And she's gotten some top-notch stuff, breeding some really great-looking babies. So she's crushing it. So
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where you get the fortune of telling her all those mistakes that we all made, as far as we bought 10 males with 3 females, and we were always male heavy, or we just got this carpet python that was undescribed, and we all have one of those. And
yeah, somewhat. I mean, she just buys up nice geckos, and it's not even like she's going to buy a heavy on one sex. Like every once in a while, like males are a little bit harder to get sometimes. She just bought one from Rack House that's really nice, but I try to guide her, of course. I mean, I've been doing this 20 years, and I'm if there's any issues, she usually will come to me. But honestly, she's figured it out real quick. She's very good with the geckos, and I don't have to do much unless there is an issue, and I try to help out the best I can. But also at the same time, geckos isn't 100% my thing. Like snakes and like pythons, like I'll tell you what the problem is 100%. But geckos, I don't always know the problem 100%. So I can only do so much. But she does very well.
Awesome. So you said males are kind of hard to come by. Is that something to where I don't know if cresteds and gargoyles are temperature dependent as far as incubation goes? Does that as far as incubating for sex?
So they haven't quite figured out if it works that way. I know it works that way with lychees, but gargoyles, they haven't quite figured it out. So the males are kind of hard to come by sometimes, or somebody's just kind of scooping up all the males that they can find.
It's usually like, I don't know. That's interesting to me because I don't think that's a problem a lot of other places in the hobby. Is that just because, do you know why that is in particular?
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the question.
Yeah, like, is a male more sought after for, like, does one male go to a bunch of females and therefore, like, you have one stud male, and are you just very choosy about that, or?
So, I mean, if you can find a killer male, I mean, you're pretty much in like Flynn. Like I have one crazy red male that I might breed with 5 females for a certain reason, whether it's the color that I'm looking for, or the boldness of the stripe. There might be different things that I'm looking at that I'm trying to, I guess, breed specifically for. So people do that, or they have different projects for different reasons.
I think I worded it wrong. I mean, they're tough to find the right male.
Yeah.
Can be tough. It's kind of like carpets, right? Like once a carpet becomes black and yellow, or the jungle becomes black and yellow, it becomes a little bit harder to find those ones that are black and yellow ready. You know, sometimes you got to buy it younger. So a lot of the gargoyles you're going to see for sale are not sexed, or maybe sexed right in that gray area until they hit, what is it, 12 grams about?
20 grams.
Oh, 20 grams to sex them. So, you know, after that, then the breeder is going to keep what he wants, and all the nice males are going to be where they want. So I think
so. It's either take your shot early and take a chance, or wait to get kind of. It may not be first pick.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I mean, it's tough for animals that, I mean, ask green tree people, or the animals that change over time, obviously, or even animals that you can't sex. I guess that's the same thing with the green trees. So what are you looking for as far as genetics go? Are the genetics passed on, like we see it, incomplete, dominant, recessive, all that stuff in gargoyle geckos?
No, they kind of just throw out whatever they want. I do have some that have hatched out that may be almost an exact replica, or might look like dad or might look like mom. And then I have ones that I'm like, where the heck did you come from? Like, you don't look like any of your parents. So they kind of just throw out whatever.
It's like Amazon tree bows. Polymorphic. That's the right word? Polymorphic.
And are you more likely to, if you breed a red male, are you more likely to get reds, or are you still kind of, what the fuck? Can you line breed them at all?
I think so. Yeah. I think, you can. I think there is line breeding. I mean, it's like anything else is polymorphic. You can line breed and try to go down that road to get what you want more and more and more. But it's very much like Amazon tree boas or stuff like that. It's not simple genetics.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. For the most part, I don't know if the lily white crested. There's a few things with cresteds and gargoyles I'm not sure about. She might. I don't. She doesn't pay enough attention on. Yeah, she doesn't really pay attention. She just breeds nice looking animals and gets nice looking animals.
I remember, man, I forgot who the guy was. A big crested gecko guy. He had an axanthic probably 5 years ago or so, or maybe 6 years ago. I don't know whatever came of that. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I just saw some recently.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, they come around. And again, I don't know the genetics of it. They might be simple genetics like the snakes and stuff, but they might not be. But I know a lot of the basics with like her gargoyles and even cresteds, where all these people are like, they talk morphs, but that's not really the right word. It's more like polymorphic stuff, where it's not simple genetics, not simple recessives and codoms and all that. But I saw an axanthic recently. I don't know what the mode of inheritance is.
Even the phantom eye.
Yeah, the phantom eye is pretty cool. She's got a.
What does that mean?
Well, you explain it.
So the phantom eye is basically it's a trait that develops over time. They're not quite sure what causes it, but it causes dark or black eyes in the gecko. Not like pitch black. They do vary in color from like a dark gray to a black, but they're not sure if it's a genetic thing where you can breed a phantom eye to another phantom eye, and then you'll get phantom eyes. They're not quite sure what causes it yet, but it is popping up in a lot of collections lately.
And they're not born with it either.
Yeah, and they're not born. It develops over time.
What the fuck?
It's cool. It's kind of neat. Yeah, like I'd never heard of it until obviously she was getting into her gargoyles and stuff, and she wanted one, and now she has a shoot. I think the powerhouse breeder male in the room is a phantom eye, but I think they're getting close to trying to figure it out. But apparently it's in cresteds also, right? I've heard someone told me this. I think last Carpet Fest we were talking about it, and I was talking about it with Eric actually, because he's got the poison ivy babies. And he said, at last I knew, it was something similar where they're developing over time and getting darker. And he was wondering if maybe there's some correlation, because I said, the phantom eyes, they come out, you would never know. And then a couple of years down the road, all of a sudden their eye starts going black over, I don't even know what the time period is, how fast it happens. I think it's relatively fast.
And then, I mean, much like, the IMG boas, it's not something that we haven't seen before. So,
okay, I don't know boas very well.
it's they call it the IMG for increasing melanin gene.
Oh, okay.
So it basically
I didn't know that till just now.
So basically,
I'm a Python guy, man. A lot of boa
it
guys.
just gets blacker. So that's just a fancy way to say that, I guess. But,
maybe that's what Eric's got. I don't know. I'll have to see.
yeah, at least it's working in a similar way. So you know that it's possible. It's in the realm of possibility that it could happen. But
yeah,
I think what's fun though is that you found out that everyone found out, hey, this is inheritable, these black eyes, but guess what? You can't tell it until later. So yeah, we kind of figured something out, but just like all the other gecko things, it's not figured out at all.
Yeah. Just like a lot of stuff isn't figured out at all, man. Ugh.
Yeah, that's true. I guess a lot of us are just believing like we have it figured out in more ways than we actually do.
Oh, sure.
And I guess it's a lot more effective to market an animal for sale, acting like you know what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
I guess that's it.
People want to buy from people that are more confident, I guess. But yeah, even with the Phantom Eyes, like she'll put on there that it was produced by a Phantom Eye parent. And, most people know. Like if they don't know, she'll explain that to them, and then if they do know, they know. It's who knows. I think there is some people. I thought it wasn't Paul keeping a group.
Paul's keeping a group. He also thinks that it's somewhat, I think, related to the gene that causes blue eyes in gargoyles, because gargoyles can have either silver, blue tinged, purple tinged, or black eyes. There's a wide array, as well as red looking eyes as well.
Wow. News to me. I didn't know that.
And is this something that's sought after at all? Or is it just fun?
People will pay a pretty penny for the black-eyed animals, the Phantom Eyes. But as far as the other colors, not really. Not really. It's just kind of in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
And speaking of which, I mean, what do you prefer in, say, I've seen so many different kinds of, especially crested geckos, but gargoyle geckos also. What kind of projects are you working with? What kind of morphs in quotation?
Well, I mean, the morph thing is kind of loose. It's not really as set in stone as like a crested. I prefer the stripes, to be honest with you. But I have a bunch of different projects. I have a yellow project. I have a red stripe project. I have, I'm going to do an orange stripe project. I have a super blotch project. I kind of have, every year I kind of mix it around a little different to breed for different things after I've seen the outcome for the season of basically what hatches out. And I'm always changing it up.
Is there something to throwing the different things together to see what comes out?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's always interesting. I mean, I might have 2 animals or 3 animals that I might not have a specific project for. And I'm like, well, I'll just put them together and see what happens. And it's always something interesting.
I think no matter what, I mean, there's people who prefer a certain look to another, but I don't think there's ever going to be like an ugly gargoyle gecko or crested gecko. People just like the way that they look. If that's a weird thing to, I don't know if you know what I mean, but just like their body structure, their head, their giant eyes, and they're just an awesome looking animal, no matter what color they are, what pattern, what mutation, or whatever.
Yeah,
she loves them. She loves the gargoyle geckos.
And we didn't go in on how to keep gargoyle geckos, crested geckos. So crested and gargoyles, are they kept relatively similar?
Yeah, they're pretty similar. I kind of keep most of my adults in all access plastic tubs, the Rubbermaid tubs. First of all, it's easy to open the door and just gain access to the tub for cleaning or whatever. Plus I can see them. It also gives them some privacy because I buy the black ones from each other. Whereas if I had like the exos next to each other, they could either see the other and kind of stress each other out or whatever. There's no supplemental heat, although it is kind of common for a lot of people to give them a basking area. I don't. I have LEDs in my tanks and my tubs. A lot of surface area. They like surface area, especially when they're breeding. You want to give them as much surface area as possible, just so the female can get away from that overeager male. Definitely. I give them a humid hide for shedding, for laying eggs, getting away from the male, whatever they might need, as well as perching areas.
And how, or heat wise?
Whatever the ambient temperature is in the room, no supplemental heat.
Our room swings seasonally, so like this time of year and in the summer it gets pretty warm, around 80, and then the tubs might be a little warmer with the lights in there, and then seasonally during the winter it's usually low 70s, upper 60s on the coldest of days. But yeah, that's about it. Upper 60s to low 70s during the winter. And then, yeah, like I said, up to about 80. I don't really let it get above 80 at the warmest because I don't like that. I don't like having it too warm for just my snakes. I like them to have access to cooler temperatures. So that's why I do that.
And you're not worried too much about the fluctuation of temperatures or anything with them?
No, not really. I mean, it's not usually too much of a dramatic effect. In the winter, I do want it to be cooler because I am cooling them and giving them a chance to stop laying eggs and to recuperate that calcium deposits in their little sacs behind their eyes. But they would naturally cool in the wild, so I want to replicate that as much as possible.
And then egg-wise, obviously you have eggs right now. Is it just room temperature?
Yep, just room temperature.
Any idea on the time frame of when those hatch out?
Those could be anywhere from 90 days to upwards of 150 days. It obviously depends on temperature and when they're laid. The room will be warmer, obviously, when the summer comes. So those eggs may hatch quicker to the ones that were maybe laid a month or two ago.
And now, obviously, those aren't as dramatic as the little day geckos, but still small babies. What is the care for a hatchling garg and crested gecko?
So I pretty much just set them up in a little shoebox tub with paper towel, moist paper towel, water, food. I usually use fake foliage, just like a little piece about this big, just enough to make them feel comfortable. And I kind of just like let them do their thing.
And is that typically like the foliage? Is that like dollar store flower type of thing, or is there a particular foliage that you use?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dollar store stuff is perfectly fine. I find that for me, because I have so many babies during the year, that I just buy the long wreath or
I don't even know what you call those things.
Garland type, I guess. And I just kind of snip pieces of it off. It's just a little cheaper in the end. Plus, I use the coupon at the craft stores.
Nice.
Sure.
I think that's important for people to know. Like, if someone new was getting into it and like they're gonna go to PetSmart and buy this little piece of foliage for like $10 when it's really just the same thing. It's just a plastic. It's the same plastic plant, you know.
100%. We'll fill like probably a dozen hatchling tubs for that $10 that you're gonna fill one little cage or something. Yeah, that's just one of those things. Like you said, we'll dollar store, Christmas tree shop has it sometimes. Yeah, it all depends what you want. That's where it got the bamboo from. Christmas tree shop and what's the other one? Hobby Lobby. Like they have you can buy the whole stalks of bamboo, and then you just cut them to whatever the length is. But yeah, stuff like that.
This whole time, I thought that was, I don't know if you've seen those like exoterras that come with the fake bamboo.
No.
I thought that would, but it same function and probably cheaper.
Well, it's cool with those. I don't know how those are, but with these, I'll cut them. You can sometimes buy a piece that's already split, and I actually like the split piece because it's just literally, it's split and it's like perfect. The geckos can go in and out of that little split. I've also taken a Dremel tool and I've cut little square accesses so they can get into the bamboo and hide and stuff like that. So I don't think you can really. I don't think the bamboo you would buy at the pet store would be like that. It's probably a whole solid piece or something like that. It's fake. But these are all hollow, so it's 100% natural.
And is there a certain point where you need to replace those, or can you actually wash them out and reuse them?
I'll usually, the main vivarium I don't mess with, which is why I like to move the babies over so it's easier to get them out on shipping day. Because usually if I'm not taking the day off from work to ship a whole bunch of shit, if I have to come home, by the time I get home, it's a little bit after 5 o'clock, and then you know where I live, and then I have to go all the way down to Newburgh to the airport, but I have to box the animal up first and all that. So usually we'll move the day geckos over to it's still naturalistic. It's still everything they need, but it's just, I built it so it's easier to get the geckos out than the main vivarium without messing everything up. So all I do is I wait until the geckos are on the roof of the main vivarium and I put a deli cup to capture them in it. And then I move them over to the other one. It's way easier to get them out of. But
yeah, is there any chance at a hands-on situation with those little day geckos, or are they super skittish?
No, they're not bad. Honestly, I thought they were until I got the electric blue. And then I was like, oh, these really aren't bad. And actually the last time I just recently shipped out, what did we send out? 6? It's like 6 of the klemmeri recently. And I was much more forward with it this time with not grabbing them, but getting them on my hands. And they're really not bad. Once you're on your hands, they're not super quick. And once you understand how they're going to move and what they're going to do, it's actually very simple. Like I said, they don't do that. Like the golden geckos and the saracinorums, they like to do that suicide jump. They don't care where they're going to jump. They're just going to fly away. They're just going. The klemmeri don't do that. They're very particular and very what's the word I'm looking for?
Almost like they're calculating their next move.
Yeah, calculated. They're very calculated with what their jump is. So if they're going to jump off of you, they're going to you can see their minds working. They're just jumping to your other hand or something else. They're not going to just jump to the floor like suicide, just who cares where I'm going? I'm leaving type thing. They're really not bad. So I don't know how people deal with the electric blues. I can't even imagine trying to deal with those. I haven't had to yet, but the klemmeri are very easy to deal with.
Yeah, the worst thing just opening up a deli cup and trying to get the tiny little gecko in there. I mean, and it just would seem like a nightmare if you're trying to do it any type of number.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, the klemmeri aren't too bad, but there's a few other gecko species here that suck. The sarasinorum, we have 3 young ones that are a pain in the ass, and usually I'm in the room when we're cleaning them just because they're very fast, and I have more of that confidence of the grab than she has yet. So when they go sprinting away, I do the grabbing. But 1 out of the 3 is fine, but the other 2 are little sprinters, and golden geckos suck too. They're speedy little demons. But yeah, that's about it.
And the sarasinorums are also from New Caledonia, so they must be a bit different though from your crested gecko and your gargoyle gecko from what you just explained.
Yeah, they're definitely different. I imagine they have a different niche in the wild. Like, I don't really know much about them. Like I said, I'm not the gecko guy, but comparatively, gargoyles and cresteds are pretty similar. These days, I actually prefer gargoyles over cresteds because cresteds are way more hoppy. Gargoyles, especially with Val and the way she takes care of them and raises their babies, like, they calm right down, man. They don't mind being handled. Every once in a while, you get a little jumpy, but like baby cresteds sometimes are little jumping beans, man. They're jumping all over the place. But gargoyles aren't like that. But the sarasinorum, yeah, when they want to be, they're gone. Yeah, it's not fun sometimes.
Are they though similar in keeping as far as diet and temperature and enclosure?
Yeah, everything. I feel like everything from New Caledonia. I don't know. I don't really know that, but a lot of these New Caledonia geckos are like that. Very easy
They're
to
all
keep.
pretty similar. I know that, and I haven't really looked too much into it, but I know that Leap and Lychees came out with different diets for the Chihuahuas versus the Lychees versus the Cresteds, Gargoyles, and the Sarasinорums, because, and I just recently learned that Chihuahuas need a higher calcium content than the rest of the New Caledonian geckos. So it is definitely something that I will be looking into as far as diets go, at least.
But it seems like, and because we're not, I guess me and Scott aren't immersed in the gecko world, but there's like catered diets to all these different species, and I mean that seems much more evolved even than, you know, for snakes we're just breeding, we're just giving everyone rats and mice.
Everything's. Let me tell you something about the reptile community. Everything is more evolved than the snake part of the community.
Also, a lot of the other animals are more evolved than snakes, so
Yeah, but
who knows, man.
yeah, but no. As far as their care, I mean, as far as care and husbandry of everything in the hobby, snakes are so far behind, and oh boy, that's a whole nother can of worms, boy.
But it's like I don't even know how did they figure that out, because I'm wondering how they figured out the specific diets for the geckos. Was that just trial and error, or does someone actually have money for research? Do you know?
Probably both.
I think it's both. I mean, I know they definitely did a lot of field research back and forth to New Caledonia, watching them in the wild, what they would eat, you know, probably even dissecting deceased animals that they've seen just to see what they have in their stomach, and basically doing the math on what kind of protein content they need.
That's something that we literally don't even consider as captive snake keepers. Like,
Depends in the circles. There's some circles where it's
yeah,
being considered.
yeah, but and then it's also like how sustainable is it? So you can run a whole commercial facility on, you know, these different mixes that you have for geckos. For us, in order to get a steady supply of, say, even if we were to do Reptilinks, it's not really sustainable price wise on a mass scale for a commercial breeder for the most part. It's like
Depends.
how can we make something or get some type of ready supply of what we need in order to make it cost efficient for us to vary up that diet.
Depends on the species. I think some you can vary it up very cost effectively, and others you can't. I mean, it depends on the species. Depends what their specialty is. Uh, if it's a frog eater that eats certain frogs, sometimes that's not easy to do. It depends where you are too, and what you can get your hands on. We were down in Florida in February and hanging out with Derek Roddy, Mr. Blackhead Python, and he was telling me that he'll go down to the fish markets and get fish for his blackheads and things of that nature. So like for him, that's very easy to do. He lives not far from the ocean and stuff like that, so it's not too hard to vary up the diet. And for blackhead pythons, that's 100% important. 100% important. Like they should not be just eating a rodent diet. But it depends. Like for someone like us, we could probably do something like that, but it might be a little more difficult. But yeah, frog eaters could be a pain in the ass. It all depends.
And then even then, we're kind of making some assumptions at some point, right? Because we don't have that, you know, this is how much calcium they need, how much this and that, at least, or maybe we haven't looked. I'm sure maybe there are papers on it, but most of the time we're like, well, I think, white lip pythons mostly eat birds or something. I'm just using that as an example that may or may not be true. I don't know. But so you're like, okay, let's give it day old chicks or whatnot to do it. I mean, there's not really an exact science to it.
No, I mean, there is a lot of this. It's tough because they might do studies and depends what's the study group. Did you dissect 5 animals and see what was in their stomach? Or did you dissect one that just happened to be more prone to eating birds? It's one of those things, but yeah, that's a tough, I think with a lot of the pythons, at least pythons, their diet is more adaptable for the most part to what we do. with rodents. I think there's a lot of other stuff that isn't. I know when I used to work with venomous, I mean, I always felt like, man, like feeding baby bush vipers, and I think they talked about this with baby green tree pythons early on, like feeding some of this stuff baby rodents that they wouldn't necessarily normally eat in the wild. Or no, maybe it was diamond pythons. They're talking about them eating a lot of baby anoles or geckos. You know, I think pythons sometimes are better adaptable at eating what we want to give them than other species that, you know, in the wild. And like I said, when I was keeping venomous bush vipers particularly, I always felt that. I'm like, man, these things, they're probably eating like little frogs or like little geckos or little things like that, eating a more fatty mouse or rat baby.
You don't think a pinky mouse crawls up into the trees and they catch it?
Not for those. For some stuff, it makes sense, but and I think some things, like take carpet pythons, even if they're not readily eating baby mice. I always say this about the carpets: they're so adaptable that they'll eat whatever and be fine. They're just that adaptable at how they live and how they eat and all that. But other stuff isn't as adaptable as that. Other stuff is more specialized. So, but it's a tough. All we're trying to do is do the best we can with what we know at the time. So.
Right. Yeah. As long as we're always trying to evolve that, I don't think we're on the right track as far as that goes. I think we're on the right track as far as I think we have more people now worrying about the ins and outs of keeping, breeding, husbandry, that kind of thing, diet, than we ever have before.
Yeah. I mean, that's with just the amount of people you have. Of course, you'd have more people thinking about it and stuff. And some stuff we're further along with that than others, obviously. I mean, some stuff we still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, and people are like, Carly in the chat said, I don't know anything about lizards. Talk lizards or geckos because we know everything about snakes. So
she knows everything about snakes? Well, shit, send her my way.
Well, no. She doesn't know. She didn't say that. Those are words that I made up.
I know.
But
another beer, so talk to my wife. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So when was your first season breeding geckos?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago. But I bred my Goldens and my gargoyles at different times.
And I don't even know if I know anyone who keeps golden geckos at all. What exactly is a golden gecko? Where's it from, all that stuff?
The golden gecko is pretty much a cousin to the tokay, but they're not like aggressive or anything. They're pretty elusive, to be honest with you. I don't see them all that often. When I kind of walk in the room, they kind of disperse, kind of like roaches when you turn the light on. They're pretty cool, though. I mean, they're not exactly common, but they're pretty cheap. I think I got my first couple for maybe like $16 a piece. Every once in a while, you'll see them pop up.
Are they heavily imported?
Not really that I see. Every once in a while, I'll see somebody that has one, and I might ask, where did you get them from? I mean, there are people breeding them. I have bred mine before, but I did unfortunately lose that female. When she got a little older, she calcium crashed. So I haven't quite figured them out yet and how they breed and how they kind of like work. So it's still a project that I'm working on.
So what exactly does that mean, calcium crash?
So for whatever reason, that little female that I had, she laid a set of duds. They weren't even fertile. She was never paired with a male at all. She naturally laid a pair of eggs, and she must not have had enough calcium stored in her sacs behind her eyes that when she laid those eggs and that calcium left her body just kind of like shut down.
So they just need, obviously males and females need calcium. I mean, calcium is just essential to their bodily function and for whatever reason.
Yeah, definitely an essential part. And I haven't quite figured out how that works with them yet, and like the breeding cycles and when to give them more calcium versus when not to. I haven't figured out exactly when they start breeding and when they end yet.
And is it kind of like leopard geckos where if they need it, they'll literally just lick up calcium, or do you have to dust it on food?
Between dusting on food or I have before left a little tiny dish of calcium for them to use whenever they need it. But actually have seen my female eat the shells of her eggs that she knows are not good, and she'll just kind of, I guess, re-ingest and kind of bring it full circle. Like, the calcium came from me, it's going back in, I need it, kind of a thing.
Do you know any instances where they would actually just straight up eat their own eggs if they were in deficit?
I don't know if they would eat a fertile egg, but I feel like they know when they're fertile and not for whatever reason or another. So they just kind of do it.
That's just so interesting because obviously I don't know if that particular species does. Do they eat their own sheds as well?
Yes. Yeah, they eat their sheds too.
And I wonder, like, what they, besides obviously being elusive, I wonder what they gain from doing that.
No.
Goldens?
Yeah.
What, eating the eggs?
Or just geckos in general, as far as like eating their sheds. I wonder, does that have calcium in it? Is that anything?
I can't even answer that.
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
Sorry, I'm just like thinking out loud. But golden geckos, keeping wise, in comparison to with foliage and stuff like that, and substrate, similar to the others that we said in the previously.
I keep them in the naturalistic just because they are so elusive, and I don't take them out. I kind of just let them do their thing. So it has isopods and all that in there just so I'm as hands off as possible. They're very skittish. They do have a basking spot, although I'm not sure what it's set at. Is it the same as the day geckos?
Low 90s.
Yeah, so it's pretty similar to the day geckos. They have the same lights. I don't think they have UVB, do they? No. They just have the LEDs and the basking puck lights.
Just much more thicker vegetation because they're more skittish.
And are your other geckos? I mean, I'm particularly thinking about the like klemmeri. Do they just chill out? Do they bask at all, or are they all a little bit?
They're the absolute best display Vivarium species of the gecko you'll ever see in your life.
All right, man, get me a pair. All right, we're on.
Well, whenever you and Melissa come over for dinner and beer, you know.
What you don't understand is that Melissa has to not know about it and needs to show up. And then,
don't worry about it. She shows up, she looks at these things, she'll fall in love. I promise you.
They're so personable. Like when I'm in the room and I'm mixing up Pangea, they're kind of like looking at me with their one eye, like, "What are you doing? Can we have some?" I mean, they're all over the glass. Like, yes.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite species in the room, gecko wise, and they're just like she said, they're just so personable. They're little characters. They're always out during the day. They're 100% diurnal species. So like when the light goes off, you see them. They go to the bamboo and they hide for the night. So you can 100% tell what their lives in the wild are like. They're that gecko species that I think they're Tanzania. Where are they from? I forget where they're from. But I should know this. But you know, you can just picture it. Like if you've ever been in a part of the world where there is gecko species, where you see them out during the day all over, and then they disappear at night. They're just full diurnal. They're out on display. They're bebopping around. They interact with each other in fun ways and stuff. And they're just the perfect like living room display species. If I was going to put a cage in the living room, it would be these for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And they're tiny, and you keep a little pair of them, and they randomly just lay eggs all the time, it seems.
Yeah, we let them raise them babies up too, as like a family unit.
So what do you mean by how do they interact with their young? Is there any type of strife there, or are they, you know, the opposite? I mean, do they help them at all?
It's actually pretty funny. Like when I go in there to catch them, the mother gets not aggressive, but she's like, "What are you doing?" Like she's very watchful. It's not I don't know, I'm trying to think what to compare it to. It's not super emotional, but there's definitely reaction. And there's definitely, like I said, if I go in there to catch them, the mother doesn't come to bite me, but she will come over and like you could tell she's not exactly pleased that you're taking the babies out. So.
Yeah, at least she can. It seems as though she can identify that those are her offspring, though.
Yeah, I think for a while. I mean, eventually they get older and they might get chased a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty normal for them in their natural range.
And can you sex them right out of the egg?
I can't sex a goddamn thing. When it comes to geckos, I can't sex. And they're
how
actually
the hell would you sex them in general?
honestly, the way we sell them, and she'll sex gargoyles and stuff like that. I don't even touch that. That's a pain in the dick. But
is that pores and stuff like that?
What's that?
Is that like using the magnifying glass to see pores? And
she does it with the gargoyles, yeah, and the cresteds. But with the neons, when I sell them, we have a set price and we sell them unsexed. I don't care how big it is. I'm not going to try to give you the sex of them. Because I can differentiate the male and the female are adults because the male has lost his tail before, so his tail looks different. It's not completely like 100% normal. So I can differentiate them, but if I try to look at the sex glands, I couldn't see it. I can't tell the difference. I know what I'm looking at. This is a male and this is a female, and like I'm pretty bad at telling the difference myself. So we have quite a few customers, and I tell them unsexed at this price, and that's all it's going to be.
And as adults, I mean, how can you tell them apart if you were to get to the nitty gritty of it?
I don't know if I could, honestly. She probably could if she really
is there though? Can you sex with pores, or is there any visual?
Yeah,
they would have pores.
Yeah, they're
so tiny. It's so hard, and they move all over the place, so it's hard to even, if you wanted to loop them, it's almost impossible because they're just all over the place.
I've posted pictures online of a couple of our juveniles before we ship them out, and there's a couple of guys who are really good at it. They'll be like, oh, that's a male, that's a male, that's a female, that's a female. Like the breeder we got them from, and a couple other guys, like they know what they're looking at. It's just not my world. And she could probably, like I said, she could probably do it with them, but it's still not as easy as gargoyles and cresteds that are bigger and have bigger pores and stuff. Like you said, they're very small. If they're not right against the glass, then it's a pain.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you're getting an awesome gecko or two. I mean, yeah. And it's not really a big deal to get more because they're so tiny. But asking for a friend, how much would typically one of them go for? A klemmeri go for?
$150 unsexed juvenile. That's pretty much our set price. $150. They're well started juveniles. Like I said, we let them, the parents raise them in the main vivarium for maybe 5-6 months at least, and then I move them over, and then we sell them out of the other vivarium. And by that point, they're young adults. Probably will easily breed the next season. But it's just so hard. It's so hard when you're really in the thick of it in the season, and she's hatching out eggs nonstop. Like for me to pick out, oh, that baby, that's the male, I have to catch that one. It's a pain in the dick. So it's just easier for me just to say, hey, 150, that's not sexed, healthy juvenile. That way, when I'm rushing, when I get home from work, I can just go in the vivarium and I don't have to be choosy over which one I'm grabbing. I'm just getting whichever 1 or 2 or 3 out that I can and boxing it up.
And do they all come out looking similar?
Yeah.
Color-wise?
Yeah, they're all
identical.
Yeah, they're pretty much identical looking geckos. Bright yellow head, bright bluish body. Just super colorful, man. When you see them up close, like I know you probably see them on Instagram when I post them and stuff.
I haven't seen them in real life. So
yeah, you got to see them in real life, obviously. But yeah, they're just such colorful geckos, and like when you see them up close, you just really see the detail of that color. And when they're really fired up and really colorful, it's I don't know if there's anything that really compares with it, honestly. I mean, electric blues are also nice. They're obviously, any day gecko is really actually fantastic. They're all gorgeous animals, but the neons, the yellow-headed day gecko, the klemmeri, if you will, those things are just so cool. And you can keep them as a family unit, which was the big thing when I got them. I said, oh, this is perfect.
Right.
Actually, the funny story behind that is she wanted electric blues, so I started putting work into that. The problem is, so I'm sure you know how this goes. When I want something, especially if it's for her, I'll have to outsource that to my friends. So I've got friends that are gecko people, and I said, "Hey, Val wants electric blue," and he says, "Oh yeah, talk to so and so and so and so." And he says, "You know, she'd probably like these," so he'll send me pictures of other stuff, and then I show her the pictures, and she goes, "Oh, I want that too." Instead of "I want that instead," it's "I want that too." So that's why we have both those species, because she wanted them too. But I don't regret any of it. They're all fun in their own way.
No, absolutely. And I think the fun of it is that I think what attracts me to colubrids also, it's that you don't have many people, you don't have that investor mentality, and you have animals that are typically all under $200 and they all look amazing. And you're like, why are people paying thousands of dollars for, mutations of things? And that's not anything against mutations. I have plenty of mutations, and even mutations of corn snakes or something like that. I mean, why are people paying thousands of dollars for mutations of just a different species that you can pay $150 and get some amazing, amazing animals.
Absolutely.
And you can get more of them. And if they're day geckos, not a big deal.
And not a whole lot of people are working with the klemmeri. There is a decent amount. It's not hard to get them, but it's hard to get any decent number of them. I had someone when I originally was getting her blue or electric blue I was talking to, and they're like, there's never been a time when you can get a shit ton of klemmeri because there's just not a shit ton available, really. Which shocks me because, like I said, she'll breed and lay eggs all warm part of the year. Like 9 months of the year, there's eggs and babies coming. So and that's just one pair. It's just amazing there that you don't see them readily available.
Yeah, because you would think some commercial breeder would just buy 100 imports or something, and then they would just start reproducing like crazy, and they would have some crazy colony of them. It seems like, why wouldn't they be in demand? Are crested gecko, gargoyle people, is that like the next level for them? Or is this a whole different kind of gecko person?
I think it's a mix. It's weird. Gecko people are gecko people, I think. That makes sense. Like gecko people, they like all the different geckos, I guess. I guess it's not unlike us. You're a colubrid guy, so you might get different colubrids. I'm a python guy, so I got 4 or 5 species. I guess it becomes a little easier depending on the geckos you're keeping. Jesus Christ. Sorry about the barking if you can hear that.
I thought it was a rooster at first. I may be crazy, but...
We have 2 dogs. One's completely silent. The other thinks he's saving us from everything.
Well, as long as he's not getting himself stuck in the stairs or whatever he did last time.
That was the husky. No, that's a whole nother... Husky's a whole nother ballgame.
Do you have nanny cams set up like in your snake room as well, just for fun?
No, actually, it's funny you say that. We want to put one up here because we have. For those that don't know, we have 2. You can call them nanny cams, but they're like 2 security cameras downstairs. Because, long story short, basically we have a husky, and she's a handful, and she suffers from isolation anxiety. So there's been it's taken a lot of work to get her to the point where she can actually be alone all day now. Hence why we have the second dog who doesn't want to shut up, but to keep her company. But yeah, we have 2 cameras downstairs on the main floor just so we can keep an eye on what's going on with her. And I do want to put one up here just because, just to always have the ability to look and when we're not here and God forbid something's going on or an electrical fire starts, knock on wood, that never happened, but anything just to have it. And but no, we don't yet.
I think that's something that I know I've personally overlooked, as far as now there's all these types of like, I don't know what they call them, but it's basically like a thermometer. There's this stone thing that has an app on your phone, and it will tell you the humidity, it will tell you the temperature of your room, all that stuff, like connected to a mobile app on your phone.
That's too much work for me. Like, I'm not that worried about it. I have an accurate temperature, thing in here that tells me humidity and temperature when I'm in here, but I'm not that concerned with my room as long as it doesn't, there's nothing that's gonna. I don't have a what do you call it? The ambient heat oil heater. I don't have something like that that's gonna break and heat the room altogether. I mean, if it does that, it's my entire house that's fucked up. But I don't really worry about my temperature in my room that much as long as it's not over 80.
Yeah, I think the reason why I feel that way is because I do run, the oil-filled radiant heater.
Yeah,
But
a lot of people do.
yeah, and it's also, that would be nice. But I don't run heat tape, so that's the nice thing. But if I ran heat tape, I would want one of those that was like, is my house on fire? Yes or no? Please tell me if my house is on fire. That's the only thing that I would care about.
Yeah, that's why I may get a camera in here pretty soon, just to have just to keep an eye on that or anything else that could happen, just to be aware.
Yeah, and I think everyone's like, nothing's gonna happen to you, whether it be fire or theft or, there's scums everywhere. It's happened to people we know, right? But
yeah, I've thought about that too.
It's like
just because I'm like, man, the animals I have in here are like, oh, God forbid someone did break in and the dogs aren't here. Because the dogs are, at least Odin, the one dog, he'll probably fuck someone up if someone broke in. But the husky they'll take all the animals out of the house while the husky sleeps. But
and I mean, for you, you have such unique animals. I mean, particularly your Moluccan pair.
Yeah, I do worry about that. Yeah.
So I guess explain a little bit of what you have going on. You said that you do pair up the Moluccans every season, but have you seen anything this?
Just the last two. Once I felt she was just old enough. I tried the last 2 years, but it's still one of the toughest games in town. I've called them the third hardest python species to breed. Halmahera has got to be the first because that's only been done once successfully, and then Boleens is probably second because the only thing that really separates Boleens from Moluccans is the amount of people trying. Even worldwide, there's more people doing Boleens, I think, than Moluccans. Or it's about even, but man. God, I wish I could just go into the crazy in-depth conversations I've had with like Keith McPeak and all the Moluccan guys, and I pay very special attention to the Boleens group and the discussions they have over there because Ari puts in the footwork over there in Western Papua, and so like I pay real close attention to those guys, and the conversations they have is just, oh man, it's just being friends with Keith McPeak is huge because his mind is like a chessboard, and we bounce stuff off each other, and at the end of the day, you're just left with more questions than answers. I guess it's very hard to breed them, but yeah, I've paired them up the last 2 years. They breed like crazy. That's the easy part. It's just getting the female getting her body to do this cycle and the processes it needs to do. That's tough for some reason.
So is it similar in a way to trying to breed bull and I?
Very similar, yeah. That whole Somalia complex seems to be tough. The bar neck scrubs and like the Tanabar scrubs seem to be easier. Well, not easy, but they're more commonly bred than Moluccans and Boleens pythons for sure. But I think I saw today that Philip up in Canada actually had fucking Moluccan babies again. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, so there is someone consistently producing.
There's no one heavily consistently, but Philip is probably the closest I'd say to consistent. He's bred the same female twice, and then he just, like I said, I saw pictures today that were recent, and I think he just had a clutch hatch again. But yeah, there's no one who's done it consistently. There's people that have had success, but no one's had long-term consistency. And also success is a relative term because a lot of the clutches I know about are they're not the greatest fertility. So still a lot of answers that need to be figured out.
So even when it's done, there's a certain amount of infertile and there's a certain amount that isn't exactly still dialed in.
Yeah, for the most part. a high percentage of the clutches that have happened have not been stellar clutches. Same with Bolines. Actually, I just found that out the other day about Bolines. There's still some fertility issues that need to be figured out.
Do you happen to know like what I don't even know like the clutch size or fertile and infertile that what's his name? I guess Frederick got in Europe when he bred the Bolins.
I don't know everything. I don't really talk to Frederick. I talk to Keith. I mostly talk to Keith, and then every once in a while Ari or something. But I don't know the numbers. But I don't know. I don't really want to comment 100% on what I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether
I think fertility was still not dialed in 100% yet.
Yeah, but we're still at the point where you're just lucky if you get, even if you laid slugs, I would think maybe you'd feel a little bit.
Oh, if you get slugs, at least you're on some sort of a path, and then you just got to dial in the fertility of it. I guess it's tough. Keith is onto a whole thing with the Bolines. I won't go into exactly what he's talking about right now, but we were discussing it the other day back and forth, and it's certainly some interesting stuff. So we'll see. The problem is I don't know how it translates into the Moluccans. It's hard because you don't know. It could be very different styles of how they live their lives in the wild. So it's hard to say. I've been back and forth in my mind with Moluccans about what I think I need to do, and I'm doing less and less big changes because I think if I just keep them steady and just keep them long enough, they'll go. But yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, I guess there's a certain consistency to it. I mean, people try. If you're tweaking it every year, your animal's just never getting that consistency. I guess those are your thoughts behind it.
Yeah, 100%. Tweaking is necessary, and then it's not necessary. It depends. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm tweaking less. I think I'm in an area where I should be, so I'm not tweaking very much. I'm just trying to get my timing down, and hopefully just that combined with patience, and I'll be successful. But I don't know, man. It's tough.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, last time we talked, I mean, you guys are still even in the realm of like, when do I pair these, winter, spring type of thing, and you're
somewhat. Yeah, somewhat. I mean, so I would like to keep them paired a lot of the year just because see what happens, but during the summer here, these two suck when it comes to feeding response. So like having them in the same cage would be a fucking nightmare. So
suck in a bad way as far as they're always ready to eat.
Yeah, like, when I go to feed them, they're going to be on. There's going to be strikes everywhere. They're not aggressive animals, but there's very big food lovers. So like when food is in the room, they're going crazy. And then, you get two animals in the same cage, it's unpredictable. I know people talk about don't cohabitate, but sometimes you have to. If you don't know the timing, sometimes it's called for. I know some guys who are going to be cohabiting other scrubs. I know Bolines are being cohabbed a little bit. When you don't know the timing and you need to produce these animals, sometimes you have to do that. So that's why you can cohab if you know what you're doing, if it makes sense. Like I wouldn't cohab carpets because I like my jungles. I know the timing of them. I'm not going to cohab them all year because I have no reason to, and it just makes it more difficult for me. But my Moluccan scrubs, I think I know about what their timing should be, but I could be wrong. So.
Yeah. And for you, it's just keeping them together just to see. But I mean, cohabbing in general, I mean, obviously that's like the number one question everyone gets, right? But for me, it's like I know so many colubrid guys who do cohab, or like Bob Applegate, his whole career he was cohabbing king snakes, which just blows my mind. But
blows my mind too.
But it's like people ask me, and I'm like, I hate to say no because the answer is yes, you can. And then like if you're gonna do it correctly, to me you have to get twice the size of the cage in order to do it correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Why don't you just fucking keep them separate at that point?
They had an interesting conversation on the UK guys there had an interesting conversation with someone about that, about cohabbing and stuff. And it was, you can do it. You just got to do it right. We were at fucking St. Augustine, and they had 2 white-lipped pythons co-had with a Burmese python. And the fucking white-lipped pythons were in the trees. Fucking in the trees. I got a picture of that somewhere. But the cage was fucking 4 times the size of this room. Actually, probably more than that, and twice as tall. I mean, it was massive.
But it seems like the berm is still somewhat overpowering and territorial on that ground, and which made the white lips retreat. I mean, you can make that assumption, I guess.
Yeah. Boleens, I mean, the berm was sitting over in a corner by itself, and the white lips seemed like they wanted to be in the tree. I mean, 20%. There you go. I might have to get my charger wire. But yeah, no, I don't think it was that. I didn't get that sense. It was a huge space. There was plenty of room and plenty of, structure and things of that nature that the white lips could have been at, and they chose to be in the trees. I mean,
it's interesting. And
it was very interesting.
I wish I could have if you could put a tree in a 6-foot cage with your white lips pythons.
This was a tree in a fucking 18-foot tall room. You know what I mean? Like, this was huge. White lips, but that didn't surprise me 100% just because white lips will use whatever you give them. Like, they'll be in the ground, they'll be in a burrow, they'll be in a tree. Like, it doesn't matter what is in the cage. They're going to crawl all over it, use it. They won't. I don't typically see mine perch. I mean, they have perches, but I don't typically see them perch like they were that day. But anything you give them, they'll use structure-wise.
If I remember correctly, I don't know if you remember that old Steve Irwin of the Serpents in the Clouds. I know it was probably a planted animal, let's be honest, but there was a white lip, I think, in a tree. So he caught a white lip in a tree.
Maybe I'm thinking of another one that he pulled out of some rocks. He was in a dry, a wet, a riverbed. It was pretty. It was all stones, and he pulled them out of stones. I remember that one.
My memory sucks. So don't.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, maybe it could be a different one, but I remember one that it was in a riverbed, and he pulled it from underneath some rocks. But yeah, it's hard. You're trying to do the best you can with what you know.
Yeah. What were you guys doing in Florida?
Southeast Carpet Fest, and then visiting a friend of mine and doing the Florida thing. We went to Crutchfield's farm one day and did the Everglades and stuff like that.
So how was obviously with a guy who used to work with Venomous, how was it seeing Cody's collection?
Oh, God. Their collection makes me want to change everything. I don't know if you saw pictures and stuff, but their collection is absolute, and it's what people should strive to do. First off, Cody and P are great people. First off, Cody will talk to you for 6 hours on your podcast. We know, but man, they're so nice, and their collection is fucking. Their cages were beautiful. The animals were just freaking awesome. They have that whole Montane room, which was cooler. It's air conditioned, and it's all just perfect naturalistic vivariums with little palm pit vipers and stuff in there. Just so cool. Yeah, their collection is insane.
That's probably, one of the closest I've seen to a zoo level exhibit as far as in the private sector.
Yeah, their cages are definitely on that level.
And just the amount too is incredible.
Yeah, their whole house it's all snakes. They have one room without reptiles, and it's the kitchen or something. Yeah, it's insane, man. It's impressive. It's really cool, and the animals are just so gorgeous.
And you got to hang out in Florida, so
yeah.
It was Southeast Carpet Fest.
That was fun. They don't party as hard as Northeast, of course, the original. But
I'm about to figure that out.
Yeah, you're gonna find that out real quick. Yeah, that's gonna be fucking a fun time. You are going, right? Oh so. Fuck! I hope she's going. She's become a regular Carpet Fest too. So, but just recently, she's like, I might have to work. I'm like, no, don't do that.
There'll be some gecko people there.
Mm-hmm. My first Carpet Fest, the gecko guy was there. What's his name? I I can't remember his name, Nick, I think. But yeah, no, Northeast Carpet Fest now is so ridiculous with the amount of people there that there's something for everybody. So yeah, she tells Owen every year it's right near her birthday, so just have people bring her geckos.
And it's funny because so many of us, even if you're a snake keeper, there's so many people who have like one-off, geckos or things like that, or just pairs that they produce every once in a while. And
oh man, there's like I said, the diversity of the people at Carpet Fest is like that. Like you said, there's always the ton of carpet guys and green tree guys, but man, there's gecko people and people that keep just about everything under the sun, from bolines to monitors to frogs to just everything, man. It's a chill time, and Northeast does it. We do it better than everybody else, so it's a party.
I can't wait.
But it's good. The other carpet, I've only been to Southeast so far, but the other carpet fests are good too. Like Southeast was a great time. Ian hustled his ass off. Like he kills it, and all the people there were great. But yeah, just Northeast just gets a little wild.
Yeah, Southeast Carpet Fest. Screw your $1 million auction. We're gonna drink a lot of beer and get a lot of fun
too, but just not as late as we do.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think even in even the, I guess they call it Southwest Carpet Fest or whatever the one is in Texas, but I mean, shit, man. I was like 2 o'clock. I was like dozing off and had to go, but they even stayed up until like 5 a.m.
Oh yeah, that's usually Northeast. There's usually a crew that makes it 4:30, 5:30 a.m. easily. Yeah, there's a group of people that do that.
Well, now that I know, I'll aim for it. I'll try to make it. No promises.
Yeah, I just booked my hotel for it, so we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be having like 4 people staying at our house, so that should be fun too.
How far are you from there?
About 45 minutes or so.
Oh shit, that's not bad at all. That's nice.
Hour and a half on like 5 o'clock on any weekday, but yeah.
Yeah, we're 3 hours, as you know. So
yeah, but I still haven't been able to come over and check out your collection. So
soon, man. Like I said, I told you and Melissa, let me know when you guys are coming up to visit your family or something. We'll plan having dinner and drinks, and you guys can come up here. We'll pull some geckos out and some snakes out and monitors, whatever you want to check out.
I'm more excited for the geckos now than I am the Moluccan. Sorry.
I don't blame you. That's where I'm at now. Shit. I told you. I keep Moluccans, but shit, watching her excitement sometimes nowadays is even funner. It's even
taking over, man.
Oh, you have no idea. When we lived in my dad's house before we bought a house here, she had a gecko corner at one point in the room, and then the rest of the room was my stuff, and then the regular bedroom stuff. But yeah, no. Once we have now that we have a dedicated room, it's like it's ridiculous. There's a lot of geckos in here, but
yeah, you're off to the races.
I don't mind it though. It works out. I get to enjoy a lot more species. If it was just me, I wouldn't have half the shit in here. But we split the work and stuff like that, so we both get to enjoy more than we would just by ourselves. So it works out.
Yeah, at least you guys have mastered the art of splitting the work. Me and Melissa haven't gotten there yet. She'll want animals, but I still do all the work. But
I do the snakes.
I still want the animals. So
I do the snakes. She does the geckos. That's basically the split, and then some other random stuff. I mean, she can do the snakes too, but it's gotten to the point now where the geckos are so much work that I pretty much deal with the snakes for the most part.
I also commute pretty far for work.
Yeah, she commutes.
3 hours out of my day is just to commute back and forth to work. So.
Whoa, where do you work?
I work in Albany, so it's about an hour.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I work 10-hour days. I'm an executive chef, so I'm there a lot.
There's some days where I'll say, hey, I'll clean the geckos. She feeds them, but I'll go through and clean her geckos because I can bust it out pretty quick. It's usually not too bad.
Man, that's hard. So good thing you're able to balance off when you can't do something. Yeah. Both of you are equipped to take care of things.
Yeah. There's a few things that she doesn't really mess with, Like, I wouldn't want her messing with Reaper, my black roughneck monitor, just because now he's so food happy that it's a little more dangerous and he's a little quick, but and stuff like that. The scrubs, she doesn't really mess with. She used to mess with Persephone, the female, but she doesn't really mess with them too much anymore, just because now they're bigger and more food happy. So, but anything else in the room, like, yeah, she'll mess. So she can mess with anything. We don't have anything venomous here, so nothing to worry about.
Speaking of venomous, I mean, can't not talk about you going to Tom Crutchfield's.
Yeah, I'm very lucky in my friends, and I put the word out. I knew someone that is friends with him, and I said, hey, can you hook me up? I said, is there any chance we can go check out Crutchfield's? And she's like, absolutely. So we went down, and it's every bit of what you expect. It's a piece of history, and it was definitely neat. He was very nice. And it was cool, like seeing some of the cobras, and the Manction vipers are cool. And then he's got those croc monitors. Some of those are just absolutely stunning. And
rock rattlesnakes.
Yeah, he's got those rock rattlesnakes, those white ones. Those are gorgeous. So yeah, that was cool. That was definitely a check off the old bucket list to go visit Crutchfield, meet him, and check that out. I know a lot of people are whatever about him, but it was cool. It was something to do, and we spent that evening in the Everglades and stuff, and we got to meet the venom doctor there. I've had a couple beers. I can't remember his name, but he was really nice. He's been on Animal Planet a few times.
Like Sean Bush?
No, not that one. Ray Hunter. I'm sorry.
The Cobra Man. That's who that is, right?
Yeah. Ray Hunter came, and when he got there, he pulled out a few cobras. And
dude, what happened to the TV guys, like snake men people thing? There were so many of those guys.
It's weird because we don't watch TV anymore because we just use the Fire Stick now. So we don't watch cable. So unless it's a show that we watch specifically, so I don't catch anything now. So I don't even know what's on TV and who's on TV. But that's probably a whole part of the transition of old Animal Planet and nature shows to where it is now.
Yeah,
and as much as that stuff.
And I think we had the guys. There's a show on Animal Planet called Scaled, and we had the guys from Scaled, and they just build vivariums for different reptiles, and they're cool dudes and everything like that. But I don't feel like we're able to get behind them enough because I don't have cable. I don't, I can watch certain things on certain apps. Some of it's locked, and it's damn, we don't even, I don't think the community even knows about it enough about it because we just, all of our attention is in one place like it used to be.
I don't know if I'd even watch it, honestly, if we had cable, just because I've never been a big fan of that type of show.
Yeah.
Even the tanked one and all that. I don't know if I would have watched that, but we'll try to catch Attenborough's shows every once in a while when we can on the app and stuff. We'll watch some of them. Anything that brings it back to, like you said, that old school nature documentary type stuff or some Steve Irwin type stuff we'll watch. But I think that's where the world's going now. It's going in a different cable at some point might go away, and it might all be internet streaming type stuff. So yeah, unless it's a show that we specifically want to watch, like the zoo, about the Bronx Zoo. We watch that show. We're friends with Chris Salemi, and he's a keeper there. So of course we're we got to watch it. And so, unless we're specifically going to watch a certain show, something new comes out. If we don't really hear about it, we're not going to watch it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, but we shouldn't complain about it because there's more information now out, more videos, YouTube videos, stuff like that about anything you would want to know.
Yeah, of course. That's me and Dan had started at YouTube, but it's hard to do YouTube. I heard you guys talking about that in your last podcast a little bit. That was an interesting, man. I wish I was sitting there having a conversation with you about all that shit, the business side of things and all that. But
well, and I don't think people knew exactly what I meant. Maybe I was being very vague, and maybe that was on purpose. But Yeah, I think people thought that I was trying to make Port City Pythons like the animal breeding. I was going to make that a full-time business, but that's not the case. That's the last thing that I want.
Yeah. No, it's tough. That's a tough conversation. Oh, you look in your watch.
No, I'm just.
You're like, we've been sitting here for a long time. It's almost.
She likes going to bed early. I should go get my fucking. What time is it?
8:48.
8:48. I got my charge wire. Where the fuck am I to charge? Do I have an extension cord?
Power strips right there.
Oh. Yeah, I gotta get my charge wire. Talk to my wife for a second.
I felt like you were just about to say something. Now I'm gonna forget. So when Scott comes back. All right, whatever he said. So how did you like take the whole Crutchfield thing, going to Florida, seeing all these different kinds of animals? Was it a lot?
It was cool to see different things that maybe I wouldn't see in, I don't know, say the Bronx Zoo, which we go to probably every year or so, or you don't see that stuff in people's collections, at least here in New York, because of the laws that are associated with them. So it was definitely something cool to see, like, you know, the mansion vipers and the rock rattlesnakes. Those were really, really cool.
Yeah, those are animals, especially that white rock rattlesnake that he has. It's just like also like just a super quality animal.
Don't mind me, just plugging my charger in.
That's always good. Sometimes it makes a weird buzzing sound when the charger. No, it sounds fine.
It's not charging. That's I fucked up.
Oh, well, hopefully it still sounds fine after.
How are you now? Now we're charging.
Yeah, you're good.
Sweet. Where were we? Yeah, no, the business thing you were talking about. Man, it was such a good podcast too, and like I said, that it's weird when I listen to podcasts. Sometimes, like, fuck, I wish I was discussing this shit with these people right now because it's such a good discussion. But
here we are, Scott. We're here now.
I know, 2 hours into it.
But, yeah. Let's get into this 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna do that to my wife because she gets tired earlier than me. But and she knows how it is. Carpet Festival, I'll have to sit down with all you guys and bullshit. And but no, it was interesting listening to you guys talk about it. And it's you're right. It's a balance. You know, the business when you it's hard to make this hobby, you know, into a business, but also keep the morals. Like you said, it's a balance. But my whole thing is you always have to put the animal first. And but what I really found interesting was you guys talking about what you're passionate for versus what sells versus things of that nature. And if you can do a mix, I mean, honestly, if you hate what you're working with, then you're not going to be successful anyway. I mean, I've written a few blogs about this type of shit, but you know, either way, you have to enjoy what you're working with, because at the end of the day, you're picking up shit for however many hours from that animal. So if you hate it, you're not going to do it for a long period of time, you know?
But I think there are those examples as far as when you look at the, you know, the larger commercial breeders, they don't have that luxury, I don't think, to work with what they love. They probably do in a small sense, in a portion of their collection, but at the end of the day, they're going after the market as well. So a certain amount of their collection is dedicated to what the market likes.
I agree. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's why Nick Mutton breeds ball pythons, isn't it? I mean, he does well on carpet pythons, but it's his career. That's what he does. So, you know, obviously he has some stuff that he has to worry about the market for. I mean, I like where I'm at, where I don't give a fuck about the market. I don't give a fuck about anything. Me and her both have paying jobs. So, like, I've been asked before, like, oh, would you make this your full-time career? And I don't think I would, because I don't know. I don't want to have to worry about, wow, carpet pythons are only selling for $10 now. Fuck. Why do I work with these anymore? You know what I mean? Like, that's just
it all fluctuates so much.
What's that?
It all fluctuates so much as far as, you know, even in a 10-year span, you can have an animal that was once $100, be $1,000, go back down to $200. It's crazy.
Yeah. Especially, not with the jungles as much, but with things like, I think about we just saw with Mike, the monkey tail skinks, for instance. Man, I remember seeing them years ago. They're fucking stupid cheap, and now, like, you know, like you said, they're $1,000 plus, and you see that a lot. It's all supply and demand at the end of the day. I mean, it's pretty basic business stuff, really.
Yeah, yeah, and that's even harder to recognize unless you know the right people. As far as say monkey tail skinks, you know, they're being imported at a certain there's a certain amount imported every year, blah blah blah. And then if that gets shut down, then your supply is shut down, and then it automatically goes up in price. And there's just so many things that affect the market, especially, you know, the importing and stuff like that. And
that's
once
that's the easy going from 0 to 100 on the price scale, like a country shutting down export. That's the easy one. The other is just like the random you know, flow of the market, where all of a sudden a few pictures get posted of a certain animal, and all of a sudden social media takes it and runs with it, and now everybody wants it, and now the price is stupid because they're not available. That's happened with the white lips. I see people every single day looking for white lips. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? First off.
Yeah, someone lied to you.
Yeah, but it's weird because they all think that, oh, who's a good breeder for white lips? Well, it's not that simple. It's not like gargoyle geckos. It's not like ball pythons. It's not like carpet pythons. There's not a set breeder because they're not that easy to breed. I mean, you're pretty much going to talk to Ryan Young. He's the only one who does it still regularly. I think there's a couple other guys that have done it quite a few times, but I don't know if they're doing it as regularly as Ryan. But like, it's just funny to watch. Like, all of a sudden the demand is crazy on white lips.
Because like a pet tuber got one or something, or who knows.
That's all it takes. That's literally, and I think honestly with the white lips, it's a few of us have posted really good pictures. You know, they're crazy iridescents, and all of a sudden it goes viral, and people are like, "Oh fuck, I want that." Yeah, I remember when I first wanted my white lip first too, and that was a long time ago. But I think that happens a lot. I think there's some stuff where it becomes more in demand just from social media or whatever the reason is.
Just because you saw a picture of the new thing is like viper boas. Like, yeah. People,
I should have bought them when they were $50 a pop.
Yeah, and it's like, they're not, in no way is that like a fun snake to keep. I'm sorry for people who like those. They're awesome looking in a way. Their head shape, they're not awesome looking in color. They're turds, and they don't move around at all.
They're a dirt snake that sits on the ground. I get it.
They are the most dirt snake. They're the dirt snake of all the dirt snakes.
The only thing I'll say is, I'll tell you what, their colors are fantastic sometimes when they shed, because they come in looking like garbage, and then they shed all that dirt off, and when they shed, they are gorgeous animals. But
if you get a good one,
gorgeous animal who's going to sit in a tub in the little swampy stuff it likes to sit in, and it's not going to really do much. It's not. Yeah, it's just going to sit there.
And I didn't mean to talk shit on viper boas. They're a cool snake. I like Candoya, but
yeah, no, I agree.
But that's just a weird random one, you know, that popped up in pair.
I tried a boa again because I was like, oh, I like rare stuff, so let me try it. I had an Isabel Island ground boa.
Paulsoni, yeah.
Yes, and just didn't do it for me, man. It just, to be fair, I had issues with it eating. It was a full grown adult, an older animal from Ben Siegel, or you know, whoever owns Ben Siegel these days, and it, you know, I had issues getting it to eat for a while, and so it's one of those things where my experience wasn't super great with it, so like it kind of turned me off. But yeah, I'm not a boa guy. I've tried 3 times, I think, and every time I come back to I just stick to pythons.
I had a Paulsoni. I had a red phase one.
Yeah,
that was it had a stub tail. It had a chunk out of its back. It lived a life, and unfortunately, it ended up having like a mouth tumor and went south. And that was after like a year or two having it. But cool snakes. And it's, to be honest, it's not like it's not even like a regular boa. Like you're saying, like, yeah, I ventured into boas, but that's such not a normal boa. That's
No,
so
but that
like,
was me compensating for that because I did have normal
yeah.
boas in my early days. I did 2 red tails, like in my first 3 years, and like it just never stuck with me. And then, and you know, I just done pythons the whole time, and I love pythons. But yeah, boas, I still haven't found a boa that turned me on to enough to work with them really.
I may get Argentines eventually. That might be my one.
Talk to my buddy Mike. I think he's got him.
I already have actually.
Yeah.
Or I think we're thinking of the same person. I think I met him at White Plains. I can't remember his last name, to be honest.
Kurgan. Mike
Oh
Kurgan.
no, then it's not him.
I don't know
Sorry.
if he still has him though. I think he does. I don't know.
It was a different Mike.
I was gonna say, I was like, I think we're thinking the same person. You don't know his last name? It's like Mike Kurgan. Like, hope you know his last
No,
name.
it was an Italian last name.
I got you.
But yeah, so I've been looking at those, but yeah, other than that, I mean, for me, like the business thing, I want it to be on the supply side. I want it to be some type of hard goods. I want to try to find ways to revolutionize keeping husbandry, even diet or something like that eventually. I'm not really sure, but I just want to, do what other people are doing for all the other sectors of the hobby. There's no one doing it for not reptiles, for snakes in particular. There's the Josh's frogs. There's there's a couple other like bioactive type vivarium sites. You would probably know better than I would, but even
New England herp is the big one.
Vivariums in the mist.
Oh, there's vivariums in the mist. They're really good. New England herp is who I got a lot of my supplies from.
But I mean, we have reptile basics, but we don't have someone doing it on a mass level. I don't think to the degree of a Josh's frogs or something like that. I think they've just done a lot.
It's a weird
they've done
thing.
A lot to advance the other sections of the hobby.
It's a weird thing, like the snake sector of the hobby just refuses to want to move forward. Like just down to the big snake guys who really think retics are fine. And I got friends who do it. Like, they're probably mad if I say it, but like, I fully agree with Tom Crutchfield's opinion on big snakes needing to be in very large enclosures. Like, you look at these retics that a certain someone on YouTube post. Come on, man. You can't fucking look at that and say that's okay. You can't. It's not a healthy animal. That's not how these animals are biologically built. They're built to be lean, really lean, fucking strong predators. You're making it into a lazy Burmese python.
What's that? What's that show? Like My 600-Pound Life or whatever.
That's
like, yeah. That whole place is like My 600-Pound Life.
And there's so many levels to this conversation, but like, I think that's happened with Moluccan scrubs. I've seen that with scrub pythons. A lot of people didn't have great success because they overfed them. They were too big. Like, they're not supposed to be that. Every time you see a wild Moluccan, or well, I shouldn't say wild Moluccan because you don't see that other than imports, but you don't see it in you don't see pictures or videos of
in situ.
Yeah, I'm working on that, but when you see the other scrubs, man, and you look at their body and all that, and you're like, fuck, like, they're a lean animal. Like, that's what there's a golden area where it's like, all right, I don't want to starve the animal and make it that lean, but at the same time, I don't want to overcompensate for like, hey, you're in captivity, I'm gonna coddle you and just feed you as much as you want because you're gonna kill the animal. They're not biologically built to be that way. So,
and just being cognizant of that fact and the fact that you're trying to find that balance is most of the game. It's gonna, like if everyone just knows that, like, just like humans, just like anything else, if you feed it too much, it has negative effects. People, for whatever reason, don't correlate that to snakes because they eat so little. And also, people think when I sell them a corn snake, I say feed it every week. They think that means feed it every week for the rest of its life.
Yeah.
That's
one of the tough things. Like, there's old habits die hard, and it's the old 10, 15, 20, more than that years ago where it was like, I did it. I just lost a snake the other day. The oldest snake I had, the first jungle I ever had. And it was because I overfed her before I knew better. Like, she was huge. She was a 7-foot female, and I know that was basically because her lifespan was shortened because I sped that up too much. And I had that fear of that happening, and unfortunately it did. But I knew it was going to happen at some point, probably. But now the amount I feed my carpets now is, oh man, so little. It's not. I mean, it's not little, but it's nowhere near. It's not once a week. Even my hatchlings, I don't feed them once a week most of the time. They don't need to.
I do my males once a month, but it will be a medium rat. And this is like an old man, so he's just chilling.
Shit, Midas.
Throw him a rat.
How many times Midas? I can probably count on less than 2 hands how many times he eats in a full year. I mean,
I think I was listening to something with Vin Russo. He was talking about obviously seasonal feeding with boas, and it was like the number that he threw out there, the amount of times they ate a year. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation that changes on the species you're talking about, obviously, but a lot of those, I think of a lot of the boas, probably very seasonal. Like, I just think about Costa Rica. When we were in Costa Rica, it was dry and you didn't see shit. That wise, we didn't see any boas, unfortunately, but
saw a bushmaster, dude. Come on.
But that wasn't in the wild, though.
Oh, really?
That was cool, though. Yeah, no, that was the night we did. That was on our honeymoon, so obviously I lucked out with that because it wasn't the full honeymoon, was not herping and all that. Don't get me wrong. But we did go and spend an entire night up in Arenal, and Ray Morgan and Mike Clarkson were real cool. Like, I put the word out. I was like, hey, we're going to Costa Rica. Like, who can I talk to? And they're like, you need to go talk to this guy. This is who you need to go with. And he was an amazing guide. His family was cool. He went herping with his family, but they were the nicest people. His son was the one who set it up because his son spoke English. But he owns the Arenal Eco Zoo. So, like, he's got 2 bushmasters and then, like, everything else that's native down there he has in captivity. So we go out herping for like 4 hours, and it's raining. It's late. It's like midnight, something like that. So, like, the cool thing is the next day she had set up us going to Tarcoles to see the crocodiles. But that was like 4.5 hours away, and we had to be there by, I don't remember what time, but it was like 10:30 or 11. It's like we had to be up early because we wanted to leave early enough because it's Costa Rica, and driving in Costa Rica, you never fucking know. And but here we are, it's like midnight, and they have like a thing where after they herp, they all go back to his little restaurant because, like, they live there. It's the Eco Zoo. They have a little restaurant. They have a couple bungalows where you can stay overnight. And they drink, they have a little food, they have some shots of tequila or whatever. And so we went back to have shots with them because, like, they're our hosts. You don't want to.
Can't be rude.
You can't be rude. So we go and hang out, and next thing you know, he disappears, and we don't even know it. And fucking sure enough, he comes out with a full-grown, just massive bushmaster.
After the couple of shots.
After the shots, and I'm like, behind her. I'm like this, and I'm like, point. And here he comes, and it was actually cool because he thought we were staying the full day the next day, and we're like, no, we're going to Tarcoles to see the crocodiles. And he's like, I wanted you guys to come over and play with the bushmasters and and spend more time. So I was like, no, it's cool. Like, I understand. Like, maybe next time we'll come down to Costa Rica and do it. He wouldn't have that, as an answer. So he just snuck away while we're drinking shots, and sure enough, bushmaster comes out, and it was. Dude, you talk about an impressive fucking animal. I mean, that thing was huge, very calm. It's like, I think he's had it for 12 years or something like that. He's had it for years. So, like, it was a very calm animal, but man, you just have to respect it because it's just so awesome.
Yeah, that's one of those iconic animals.
Yeah, I took
that pictures. It's just like you're so lucky to see.
My partner with the YouTube and all the other stuff, Dan. I took pictures and like made him think we found one. He was so pissed.
Put him in some leaf litter or something.
Well, the guy actually has that set up for pictures. He has like a rolling setup that he can put the snake on, and it's like a built naturalist built picture background thing, so that was pretty neat. But
I need one of those just for Instagram pictures, man.
yeah.
I
Bill
would love that,
Stiegel was
but
I got to find out what happened with Bill Stiegel. He was supposed to have a National Geographic guy building a whole thing because they wanted to film the green tree python coming out of the egg and going up into like a branch. So like they were supposed to be at Bill Stiegel's filming that, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'll build the whole scene. Just do you have a Home Depot near you?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "That I'll get everything I need there." And I don't have to ask Bill next time I talk to him. But
it probably goes to show you that you can make a little Indonesia just by going with probably a couple $100 and a Home Depot.
Yeah,
you can build yourself a little Indo.
I thought that was pretty neat. I was like, here's this guy's gonna build a little fucking thing that they're gonna film, and Bill's like you don't know when they're gonna hatch. He's like, no, we'll just put cameras on it the whole time, and yeah, they're supposed to film it so it comes out of the egg and goes up onto a tree, and makes you wonder about all the nature documentaries you watch after that, I guess. But
lots of them are farces.
Of course, that one. I mean, that's a tough scene. You're not going to catch that, naturally. So something like that, I understand.
Yeah, I think you're still capturing. It's still natural behavior in a sense, as far as it's still an animal coming out of an egg. I mean, it's not captive at that point. I mean, it's no different than a wild animal, I suppose, other than the setting.
They were just looking to get a scene for their, the bigger picture of it. So, but I thought that was cool. I can't wait to see what that is. I'll have to ask Bill if they did that yet, or he keeps hatching out such ridiculous shit anyway.
Yeah, like they're doing it, and like people are gonna think that green tree pythons are like black because he has those like black cherry red fucking sickness babies coming out of the eggs and stuff.
That's right. I found out the other day that we have a sibling to the remedy of the sickness. So Buddy Buscemi hatched out a green tree. I don't know if do you know Buddy? I don't know if you know Buddy.
I don't know him personally, but heard of him.
You should be meeting him at Carpet Fest. Just one of the nicest guys you're ever gonna meet. And she has a green tree from him after 4 years of the green tree guys fucking talking her into it. But yeah, he has.
That's a good one to get talked into. Let's be honest. That's not
because I was the one who told her, oh yeah, you really can't hold them and yada yada yada. And first time she went to Carpet Fest with me, Buddy Buscemi says bullshit. He brings her downstairs to hold Owens, and it took maybe 3 more Carpet Fests before next thing you know, she's bidding on a Buddy Buscemi, what's the word I'm looking for? Voucher for an animal. So yeah, we got one of Buddy's animals here, and it's Buddy hatched out an animal that he called the remedy to the sickness. So he told me the other day that that's a sibling to it. I'm like, oh, that's fucking awesome. But we have one green tree python for now.
Yeah, I have one too. It's just you like to look at it every once in a while. It's a cool snake.
It's cool because I had 2 many years ago, and I would not have bought one. Like I wouldn't have gotten one, I don't think. But she wanted it, so she got it. And oh man, it's such a cool looking animal. And watching the change right now is pretty cool. It's going from it's a red neonate, but it's starting to get lighter. And the black on it has gone like blue. So like, yeah, I'm curious to see how it turns out because it's from Buddy. So like, it's, top of the line. I'm excited.
And now I've heard through like different localities and stuff, some seem to change over a few sheds, but mine, I swear, changed in like fucking 5 days, man. I was pumped to be like, oh, I'm going to look at all the different phases. That thing turned in like just a few days.
I've seen both ways with that. This seems to be slower right now. Like I said, it's not dark. You can see it's starting to lighten up in some spots. And like I said, a lot of the black, the line black has turned like a blue. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens. I mean, I'm waiting for the next shed. It's got to shed soon. I just fed it tonight. So I'm thinking maybe maybe before another feed, it might shed. I'm curious to see what it looks like.
Yeah. It's just no matter what, end up with an awesome animal, just like the klemmeri. And the green tree pythons. At the end of the day, it's gonna be a green snake.
I'll tell you what, I haven't been this nervous about a python being in the room and the care of that python for many years. Like I'm cocky as fuck. I'm humble as hell, but I'm also cocky as fuck when it comes to my python ability. And like, dude, that thing came in the house, and like I'm so fucking nervous about it. Still, I'm nervous about it because first it's an animal from Buddy. It's a green tree python. It's got me nervous. It's her animal. I'm like, oh man, like every shed, I'm like, it's, I haven't been nervous like this in a long time. And I keep white lips, I keep the scrubs, like that's nothing. Like I don't even blink at that stuff, like the care of that stuff. This, like, even though I'm doing exactly what Buddy said, like I said, here's what I got and how I'm gonna set it up. And he's like, dude, you're mint. That's beautiful. I'm still like, so nervous. But,
I wouldn't sweat it.
yeah, well, my wife's crazy, so. No, she wanted that animal for years now, and she didn't just get like any green tree python. She got one from Buddy, who's like the man, and from day one, he's like, I got the animal for you. He's like, don't worry. He's like, he actually asked her, do you want to watch the change or just get one that's already a little older? And she's like, oh, I want to watch the change. So he's like, he didn't even give her a choice of what she was getting. He's like, I got the one for you. Yeah. And Buddy doesn't mess around. So
yeah,
but
that's always
he's such a good dude. And like, yeah, he's just one of the nicest guys. Like I love talking to him, and having a green tree python from him in here, it means the world to me. So like I said, you'll meet him at Carpet Fest. There's going to be such a group of great people there.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet everyone. But Melissa's not here to usually nudge me and tell me to wrap up the show. So
that's right.
I'm
She'll
gonna
start
do
nudging me soon.
I'm gonna do it all on my own. So
look at you go.
So what do you guys? One last question. Whether it be besides the one electric blue day gecko, what are some animals that you're looking, or some species that are on your radar going into the future?
I'll let you answer first.
I
don't think I want to know what her answer is to this, but
hopefully you guys match up.
One that I wanted.
The day gecko?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants another day gecko. I can't remember the exact one.
Oh my gosh. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't remember the name either, but there is another day gecko that she wants. It's much harder to get. Not as hard as a female electric blue, but pretty close, and it's kind of expensive. So we haven't done it yet. And honestly, the room factor is tough. But we got some cages kind of opening up. Well, not really, but because geckos are growing up, and our last frog just recently died, so that cage opened up, and then the mossy leaf tail I'm selling to my buddy, that's gonna open up a cage, but it's like her lychee's getting bigger and gargoyles and everything else is growing, so it's hard to find open space. But yeah, there's another day gecko she wanted. Really colorful, really like fuck, I can't remember what they are.
I can't remember the name of it.
But I guess that's your answer in our day gecko. For me, oh man, it's such a hard question, and I've actually thought about it myself. I'm in a weird spot where I'm the most content I've ever been in the hobby with what I have, with desire for anything. Like, it's actually funny. I don't know if you saw recently, Mike Curtin has gone on a tear getting all kinds of crazy shit. And it's kind of fun to watch him like get excited for all these random weird species and stuff. It's kind of made me like, man, I'd like to see something. The only two things I can really think of right now is more Moluccans, but they have to be babies, and preferably captive born if one of my buddies gets it before me. Ornata, that's right. Phelsuma ornata is the gecko that she wants. Yeah, like I said, more Moluccans. And the only other thing I could think of is that I recently had a little moment of weakness for, where I was like, fuck, wouldn't mind working with them, is the Madagascan leaf nose snakes. I don't know if you've seen those.
Those are pretty sweet.
You know what? Ryan, how do you say his last name? Ryan Dumas. He posted some recently, and I was like, fuck. Like, you know what it is? For me, it was nostalgia, because I remember seeing those in the books I read as a much younger keeper, and even before I was keeping animals, you see pictures of them, like, what the fuck? A snake with like a fucking leaf on its nose? Like, that's something different. And I actually was talking to him about their care and stuff, and they're actually not terribly difficult to keep, it seems. But that's the only thing that really has been on my radar lately, but minimally. Like I said, I'm the most content I've been with what I have. I have most of the stuff I would like to keep, I think, for the most part.
Are there people captive breeding those? I've seen imports, but I don't know if anyone.
I think most of them are. What did he say? I think a lot. I think mostly imports still. Yeah, I don't know if there's really anybody captive breeding them at all. I'm not sure.
Now you make me want to ask you like 20 more questions, even though we're supposed to wrap it up. So I'll stop on the leaf nose gecko.
Melissa's not here. It's okay. I won't tell her.
Your wife's still gonna kill you.
Oh, she's all right.
And I don't know her that well, but she may also kill me.
No.
Do you know? Are they? My assumption would be that they're lizard eaters, but
the leaf nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be the number one thing that would make me hesitate is they're knoll eaters. But you could probably get them. I mean, that could maybe happen, I imagine.
So does Ryan have a pair, or does he care for them
at the zoo? He cares for them at the zoo. He has cared for them at the zoo. I think he might have some privately. I'm not positive, though. I'd have to look back.
Yeah, it's a
little
cool snake.
Yeah. He posted pictures, and I messaged him, and we had a discussion about it, and I feel like he does have, I think he does have some privately now, but he has cared for them in the past at the zoo.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Cool snake. Diet. I don't know. That'd be tricky, man.
Yeah, I could probably make it happen. There's probably some places you can order them and just freeze them or something, but yeah.
I wish there was a way to. You would think, since anoles seem to multiply so readily in Florida, they're all over the place. You would think there'd be some way to breed them efficiently at a decent price, but there really isn't. Just two eggs at a time isn't enough.
It'd be annoying. I think at least with where we're at. Like, I don't even breed our own rodents just because I don't have time for that amount of work. I'd just rather pay my buddy and get a few bags of frozen rodents. It's just easier. So yeah, I'd have to find a supplier and do it the hard way.
I think a lot of people, because through corn snake, we use anoles to scent a lot of rodents for babies. But I think that I don't know anyone who buys. They end up having to buy like the wild caught Florida stuff. I mean,
I think
you assume the risk.
Anybody would have to be doing. I think that's probably the best source, right? I would imagine the wild caught stuff.
Yeah, that's all we got.
Yeah.
But Melissa just sent me some clock emojis on the on the chat.
Oh, Melissa.
So where can they get in touch with you? What do you sell your geckos under? Is it the same? Is it NY Herp Revolution, or is it something else?
Well, I do have my own Instagram. So if I have any animals, I'll post them up there. It's Chef Val 845, and that's my Instagram.
Yeah, her Instagram is her own and my own. My Instagram is New York Herp and New York Herp _revolution. And then I have an email address, morelialife33@gmail.com. I really need to actually go through that because I saw some emails looking for the link that you were going to send me. I was like, oh, I need to reply to a couple of emails here from people that have emailed me about reptile stuff. But and then we got the YouTube, me and Dan, although we haven't made a video in a while, just life's too fucking crazy, but that was Reptile Revolution project.
But definitely go check it out, especially man, Dan's collection is outrageous. So
Dan's a fun character. Sadly, I don't think he's gonna be with me at Carpet Fest. He was with me at the last two, right? Yeah, he was with me at the last two. I don't think he's gonna make it to this one. But he's a character, dude. He is a ball of laughs, and super passionate, super smart guy. And it's cool because in New York, real quick, New York has pretty strict regulations on what you can keep. Pretty much everything dangerous, everything big and dangerous and venomous you cannot have. But Dan is a licensed educator, so he has all the fun stuff. So we love going up to his house every year, and we get to play with the big snakes. And he's got an alligator, and he has a Nile crocodile. I think that's probably the only one in private hands, for God's sake. It's small.
That's crazy.
And but he's got some cool native stuff too. Yeah, it's fun, and Dan's a really good friend and just freaking hilarious. So unfortunately, I don't think he'll be with me this year. But yeah, we have that. We have the YouTube, and then also my blogs, which I've been real bad about lately, just because I've been lazy. But those are on medium.com. You just search my name and the blogs come up. I think that's
sweet. And we will link all of that stuff below. And we are Port City Pythons, or I am today Port City Pythons.
Miss
you can check
Melissa.
us out.
We'll talk soon.
Portcitypythons.com. We have, of course, shirts available. We have, like I said, the Sumatran short tail, maybe a few things up on Morph Market, but nothing up on the website. Other than that, guys, that's really it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Scott and Valerie, for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
And we will catch you guys later.